This week on Vaticano, meet one of St. John Paul II's personal secretaries, Bishop Emery Kabongo, Bishop Emeritus of Luebo in the Democratic Republic of Congo, who shares with us the incredible story of the growth of the Church in Africa. Visit the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome, the first Jesuit educational institution in the world that's responsible for having educated 28 recognized saints and 16 popes. Learn from Massimo Melini how he and his family are using simple ceramics to honor God and the Church. Vaticano starts now. Last week at the Pontifical Urban University, a three-day conference was held to give more space to the contribution of women in interreligious dialogue.
This conference was an opportunity to gather together women of 12 different religious traditions, and the purpose was for us to share with one another, to listen to each other, and then to network and grow in interreligious friendships. As I understand it, the purpose was to meet the request of Pope Francis that we grow in fraternity with each other.
The event was organized by the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue and the World Union of Catholic Women's Organizations. Over the course of the days, there were several sessions that covered discussions on female figures in Scripture and religious teachings for a culture of encounter, as well as sharing experiences and contributions from saints and sages.
On a religious level, I find my religious identity is stronger because I talk to people I disagree with. And so I take away with me the learning, the illumination I could see on my own perspectives from this conference. And also, I want to help bring that to other people.
During the second day of the conference, the participants were received in an audience with Pope Francis, who congratulated them on the initiative. The Holy Father stressed the importance of the interreligious dialogue meeting, explaining how it has become an increasingly rare practice, but at the same time, it's one of the greatest gifts that can be offered to families, communities, and society. The final session of the conference focused on the future of interreligious dialogue, trying to map out the next steps, starting with the encyclical Fratelli Tutti.
The women had many ideas. There were practical ideas and there were local ideas. Some of them included intergenerational mentorship and also the idea that we need to integrate women with the men and the youth with the old, not just having separate conferences, but really working together for the future.
Starting with the encyclical Fratelli Tutti, the conference emphasized that talking about a culture of encounter means looking for points of contact, building bridges, and designing something that involves everyone, with women at the forefront. The long-term goal is of creating a large, global interfaith network. From the 25th to the 27th of January 2023, the 26th International St. Francis de Sales Days took place at the Sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes in France. The event was organized by the Communications Department of the Holy See, the Federation of Catholic Media, and Cygnus, the World Catholic Association for Communication. The international conference invited 230 Catholic media professionals from around the world to take part in a pilgrimage to the shrine, and provided the setting for journalists who represented 25 different countries to meet one another and discuss important topics facing the Church and wider society today. Themes that were addressed during the conference included transmitting the gospel in today's world, addressing the abuse crisis in the Church, examining the influencer trend on social media, and how it will impact the future of Catholic journalism, and how to speak of the divisions in the Church. The talks were conducted in the conference hall of the French bishops. Special guests to the conference included French actor Gad Elmaleh, who recently converted to Catholicism, and Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Secretary of State of the Holy See. Cardinal Parolin presented the Jacques Hamel Prize, named in memory of the French priest assassinated in 2016, to journalist Christophe Chaland. A common theme throughout the pilgrimage was the importance of owning our identity as Catholic journalists in a secular world, and of sharing the faith through acts of kindness and charity.
Hello and welcome to this week's Vaticano Updates, the most important news from the Holy Father and the Vatican. Cardinals organizing the Synod on Synodality have written a letter to all of the world's bishops, sharing urgent considerations for the continental assemblies, 7 of which are set to take place by the end of March. Now, in the letter, Cardinal Mario Grech and Cardinal Jean-Claude Holrich stressed that the Synod of Bishops is not meant to address all of the issues that are debated in the Church. They also reminded the participants on the 3 main targets which Pope Francis wanted the Synodal Church to discuss: communion, participation, and mission. Bishop Robert Francis Prevost is the new prefect of the Vatican Dicastery for Bishops. He succeeds Cardinal Marc Ouellet. Now, Bishop Prevost will lead the Vatican office responsible for evaluating new members of the Catholic Church's hierarchy. He was born in Chicago in 1955 and has served as a bishop of the Diocese of Chiclayo in Peru since 2015. In his Angelus address, Pope Francis decried a culture that throws away unborn children, the elderly, and the poor if they are not useful. The disadvantaged cannot be thrown away, said the Holy Father, and he added, every person is a sacred and unique gift, no matter what their age or condition is. Let us always respect and promote life. Let us not throw life away. Now, Pope Francis has clarified his comments on sin and homosexuality from a recent interview with the Associated Press. He says, "When I said it is a sin, I was simply referring to Catholic moral teaching, which says that every sexual act outside of marriage is a sin." And the Pope wrote in response to a request for clarification. Now, Francis stressed out that he was trying to say in the interview that criminalization of homosexuality is neither good nor just. The Holy Father has offered his condolences after 11 people were killed in a shooting at a Los Angeles dance hall. Now, one of 2 deadly mass shootings in California at the end of January. The Pope sent a telegram to Archbishop Jose Gomez of Los Angeles expressing his sadness and assuring spiritual closeness to those affected by this tragedy. Thank you for watching this week's Vaticano Updates. My name is Benjamin Crockett for EWTN Vaticano.
In a few moments, we'll be back with more on Vaticano. Africa's growing importance for the Catholic Church in the coming decades comes down to 2 major factors. First, the conversion of sub-Saharan Africa at the start of the 20th century is bearing fruits. Secondly, the growth of Africa's population in the 21st century is unique among all regions in the world. These 2 factors coming together signals that many of the missionaries of the 21st century will be coming from Africa. The globe's 2nd largest continent by landmass, Africa was in 2020 home to a population of 1.3 billion people. 50% of that population is Christian, 17% is Catholic. Africa's Catholics already make up roughly 20% of the global Catholic population, but they're also the fastest growing Catholic region in the world. By 2050, the World Christian Database estimates that African Catholics will make up 32% of the Catholic Church.
I'm so thankful for what happened in Africa because it's a mystery and a miracle of evangelization. Evangelization in Africa is a very new thing. We were there in Asia before, and we've struggled in Asia, even though some countries like Philippines or Korea or Vietnam are coming to Christ massively. But in Asia or in Africa, if we're to compare, it's unbelievable. In 120 years, 25 years, the mission has been like a fire, a wildfire that has really set of Africa ablaze. And today it's so beautiful to see that these young Christian countries are themselves becoming missionary. And we're so grateful in France to have many missionaries from Africa who are coming to help us.
Bishop Emery Kabongo, who served as bishop in the Congo, remembers that it wasn't always easy back then, and that the leadership of the church focused very much on making sure the message of the faith was being shared.
La foi grandit, vous l'avez bien dit.
The faith grows, you said it well, but it needs more priests because the country is large. My diocese, which was the Diocese of Luebo, was 32,000 kilometers squared. Sometimes we had to travel by foot, but we ended up buying a small car. We even went by motorcycle. So as a bishop, I did not wait to have better modes of transportation to visit each village. We talked and did what we could. We became priests and bishops to preach, to announce God who loves.
When j'étais évêque au Congo,
When I was a bishop in the Congo, they said that we should start by learning to carry the message of the Catholic faith.
de la foi catholique,
According to data collected by the World Christian Database, as of 1900, the continent was 9% Christian and 33% Muslim, while 58% followed traditional ethnic religions. The period from 1900 to 1970 brought about rapid religious change to Africa, as well as population growth and economic development. The total percentage of Christians in Africa increased fourfold between 1900 and 1970. The percentage of Catholics increased even more rapidly, from 2% in 1900 to 6 times that number in 1970. Because populations are growing more quickly in countries with a greater share of Catholics, demographers predict that Africa will continue to become gradually more Catholic over the coming decades. The conversion of Africa during the 20th century has made Christianity the single largest religious affiliation on the continent.
We need to have this joy of the gospel, which is kind of like what I think of when I think back to my travels in Africa. I remember a beautiful mass in Namibia. We were in a small village by the sea, and the father just, started singing the Gloria in Excelsis, Gloria in Excelsis Deo, and then the choir went off on a 4-voice kind of beautiful piece of Gloria, and I was like, well, this is the glory of the Lord. It was all in local language, and it was really beautiful, and I was like, well, I love this joy. It was a poor village, there was not much there, but there was polyphonic singing and joy of the gospel, and so that's what I hope all people can live out. That's a very new community.
While the Catholic community in Africa may not be the oldest, it is a young and vibrant church that will certainly light the world of the 21st century with the flame of the gospel. Rome's Pontifical Gregorian University has educated 28 saints and 16 popes. The first Jesuit educational institution, it was founded by St. Ignatius of Loyola himself. Now there are 189 Jesuit universities around the world. In September, a new rector took the reins of the Gregorian University, Father Mark Lewis.
Father, how do you find yourself in this almost new role as a rector of the Gregoriana?
I was the academic vice rector here at the Gregorian for 3 years before I became rector, so I had a chance to learn the system a little bit. But a pontifical university is very different from the universities in the United States where I've been assigned before.
How is it different?
There's a much closer relationship with the papacy. There's a much closer relationship with the religious order that sponsors, in this case, the Society of Jesus. So maybe a little bit more direction from above, but also very, very focused on theology.
The Gregoriana has a great history. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more, and you also as a historian, a little bit more the role of this university, of this pontifical university for the church, but maybe for society as a whole also in Europe.
So one of the things that Ignatius wanted was to prepare priests who would be honest and would have integrity in their life that would then become an example to confront the Reformation. And so there was a real sense of creating people who were smart, who knew their theology, but also lived their Christian faith in a way that would be a good example. I don't know that that has changed so much. And in fact, I think in our age, there's a need to have priests who are transparent, who are honest, who live their values and their lives with an integrity that attracts people to the church.
There are roughly 3,000 students at the Gregorian University, many of whom are priests and seminarians. But while the Gregorian offers many theological courses, it also offers a number of classes in the humanities.
What do you think is the most important, or one of the most important things that people should take away, other than just knowledge, from studying here at the Gregoriano?
I think for me, the most important thing that Jesuit education in general and the university here tries to do is help people to learn how to think and learn how to think critically.
To some people, studying theology is not associated with thinking critically.
And I think that's a misunderstanding of theology. I think there's a distinction between memorizing facts in a sort of catechetical setting and beginning to do theology where you ask the deeper questions and also examine critically the answers. Understanding God is a mystery, so no theological knowledge is going to give us a complete understanding of who God is. So we have to keep coming back to it. We have to keep asking questions, going deeper to understand better what we know about God.
So a lot of the values that are being taught here, of course, remain the same over the ages. At the same time, you also engage in very, let's say, modern or current topics.
We are more and more aware that we live in a global community, in a world where we have to interact with people of different religions, different faiths. And so the challenge is, how do we do dialogue with people who believe differently from us in a way that allows us to move away from violence, move away from misunderstanding, towards finding the things that we hold in common, especially the common values that help us to create a world society.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Gregorian University is open to all, not only seminarians and those pursuing religious life. It gives its students the opportunity to study the humanities, theology, philosophy, and much more. This year, the Gregorian University will also integrate 2 other Jesuit educational institutions, the Pontifical Biblical Institute and the Pontifical Oriental Institute, expanding the range of its education even further. We'll be back after a short break with more on Vaticano. On their own, they're simple ceramics, pieces of glass and tiles, but when arranged by the hands of artistic masters, they join together to take on a new meaning, a new life, a beautiful mosaic.
We create stained glass windows and the mosaics, especially here the mosaics. So we work mainly for churches or cathedrals, sanctuaries, so for religious buildings all over the world.
All over the world?
All over the world, yes.
In this workshop, the artist Massimo Melini and his team produce stunning large-scale mosaics in the stained glass windows for cathedrals and churches across the world, like this one in Houston, Texas, that covers the ceiling of the new cathedral. But before you get to look up and see these awe-inspiring works, they start here, one little piece at a time. The work is painstaking. A full mosaic can contain millions of pieces, and each and every piece has to be selected from thousands of potential colors and shades, and then cut grinded, and delicately placed in the exact right place to create a masterpiece. For Massimo, creating beautiful mosaics is something that runs deep. This company was started and built by his late father.
I am the second generation, so I started working in the studio when I was really very, very young, and it was, a wonder new world, just touching the material and see people and artisans working on these artworks. At the very beginning, just cleaning everything, touching what I should not touch, and how young boys are, so interested in everything and doing what they should not do. Even at that age, you could realize that there was something special in this kind of world.
Massimo's father sadly died when he was just 15, and so when he graduated school, he took over the reins and continued his father's legacy, working with their customers to bring their ideas to life in either stained glass or mosaic.
Considering the style of the building and even the idea of the customer. So when you put all together this indication, then it's our role to develop the sketch.
What starts out as an idea then becomes a sketch, then a sample, and then, after sometimes years of work, a finished piece. Their main studio is in the city of Florence, but as the company grew and their clients requested bigger mosaics and larger stained glass windows, they needed more space.
Yes, we always have this idea because we are really think that this tradition that all these important artists in the past gave us, and this was the meaning behind to keep in the classic style, figurative style and tradition.
And for Massimo, he feels the added responsibility of not only having to create something beautiful, but something that portrays the beauty of the faith.
You feel the responsibility because you really understand what you are involved in and what you would like to express, but at the same time give you that kind of depth inside.
At the moment, they're currently working on a very special project.
Questo dipinto è
This painting all started from the idea of wanting to represent a battle of angels. But what I wanted to do is contextualize it through a particular biblical text, Revelation 12.
in particolare che è Apocalisse 12.
Massimo has commissioned a local artist to paint a stunning depiction of the battle between good and evil in the world.
Che la battaglia si sviluppa perché
The battle develops because here, in the center where there is the event of the incarnation, the enormous red dragon wants to devour the child who is about to be born. Then the good angels run in defense of Mary, the angels who have said yes to God, and in a particular way, there are the three archangels who oppose the three predominant heads of the great red dragon. The archangels are Gabriel, Michael, and Raphael.
Gli arcangeli sono Gabriele, Michele e Raffaele.
Massimo's hope is that this painting will be turned into an enormous mosaic, and he's already created one small section of it to give you an idea of the incredible scale of this ambitious project.
Yeah, we live a beautiful life where there is no difference between work and life.